G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff. Beyond MGTOW, Lying Flat. Now this is going to be part 1 of 2, but I think a lot of people don't know certain terms like cultural Marxism, MGTOW, manosphere, anti-feminism, separatism. I think most liberals don't even know they're not liberals. Most liberals are cultural Marxists. These are people indoctrinated into Marxism without knowing it, predominantly feminists. You hear the coded language of Marxism all the time, and I'll give you one. Reactionary ideology. This is straight from the Southern Poverty Law Center, the SPLC, claims that MGTOW is a male supremacist ideology grown from the men's rights movement, which is a reactionary or counter-revolutionary. So that's what it means, right? A counter-revolutionary in Marxism is branded a reactionary. This is their coded language. And once you see how they use coded language like diversity to mean anti-white, mass migration to mean conquest. Now, this is it's the rejection of those who challenge hierarchies, right? Marxism is a hierarchy. Socialism 101. And it really is Socialism 101. Okay? Reactionary is anyone with beliefs that oppose political social liberalisation or reform. Yet when a right-winger talks about reform, they say, it's oppression. See, they have all their coded languages. Marxism, every time Marxism is defeated, it evolves. The progressive movement, when it was defeated, remember, the Democrats used to be a reactionary party. They started as a revolutionary party, but they soon become counter-revolutionary. Why did they become counter-revolutionary? Because they didn't want to be overthrown. Once they had power, they go from revolution to counter-revolution. And right now, China is counter-revolutionary. They do not want their revolution to continue, because if the revolution continues, they are the ones who are thrown out of power. So yes, MGTOW is a revolutionary or a backlash movement. It is an anti-feminist movement. It has been branded many things by the gynocentric establishment. The establishment has been gynocentric since the 17th century. Long before, without our consent, the rights of man were diluted, stripped, and over the years they have diluted and polluted education to make sure that we are not self-sustaining individuals, but rather cogs of the machine. The manosphere is a reaction to feminism. Lying flat is the next step. Lying flat, or Taiping in Chinese, is a social movement and a lifestyle choice, much like MGTOW. Young people, however, are the primary adherents of lying flat. It is often depicted as men lying on a futon in a bedroom without a TV, without luxury, without a housewife. I've seen it. Now, difference between lying flat and other movements is lying flat will still have a few comforts, right? Lying flat, the man will have a lawn chair, a little table with a computer on it, and a little computer screen. That's it, right? So, what does lying flat mean? And what does MGTOW mean? And what does any of it mean? Well, and the difference. That's the thing. Well, MGTOW is pretty much in the name. It is most definitely men going their own way. Predominantly, it's an online movement. It does not have memberships. It does not have books. Does not have a handbook. Does not have membership dues. It is a separatist movement to free men from oppression by women, marriage, romance, and or the self-interest of the state. Okay? Predominantly the manosphere is freedom of men from the oppression of the state. MGTOW is specific to anti-feminism as part of the anti-feminist. So you have the manosphere, which is made up of many movements. Again, the manosphere has no membership. It has no handbook. It is learnt online from men to men. The primary goal difference between manosphere and MGTOW is separation from women. The rejection of the gynocentric culture. The focus on self and self-improvement. And our primary means of engagement is, according to some, Reddit, others, YouTube. Now, red pill is a different belief. It is overlapping with MGTOW in many ways. But red pill is about the pursuit of truth and the rejection of the gynocentric model. It is about the restoration of the rights of man, waking up to the establishment and the political corruption that protects the establishment through multiple means. And I can give you a couple of examples very quickly if you want, but only if you ask in the comments below, right? Because I think most people know how the establishment operates. So, moving on. Lying flat is considered the next step after MGTOW. But lying flat broadly generates across not just the manosphere, but all of society. However, it's predominantly a social movement found amongst Gen Z and millennials. It is a rejection of the rat race. It has many things in common with the West. And in fact, many argue it exists before someone said, before someone posted the lying flat cartoons. The most predominant one, of course, is just a man on his own lying flat on a towel in an empty room. That is the most extreme version of lying flat. However, all in common with the lying flat movements, plural, is rejection of the rat race. No overtime. You do the minimum effort required. Low desire. You do not desire marriage, women, children, or any financial obligation. You don't buy a house. You don't buy a car except if you can afford it. If you can afford something, you buy it. You do, you save, you don't borrow. Passive resistance. If you have a job, there is no overtime. There is no pursuing overtime, that is. Sometimes, of course, there are exceptions within every movement. They realise that some people, particularly factory workers, don't often have a choice. It is born out of frustration. Now, I can explain until I'm blue in the face that society is not a office block where everybody lines up and goes up the ladder. The corporate ladder has backdoor shortcuts for the chosen few. The chosen few. Everyone else is elevated by merit. The majority, even with merit, cannot become management. The management model, the best management model in the world, actually self-reliant management, is born out of self-management principles of Hungary and the self-management principles and daily work life in Japan. American companies used to be highly bloated with multiple levels of management and created this corporate structure of multiple layers of responsibility, area management, and so forth. Japan reduced the level of management. That reduces the stratas and upward mobility of society. That's why Japan has social stagnation, because so many women want upward mobile men of the 90s. So lying flat, is a backlash to that, even though the mineralization of management is a good thing. A lot of companies, that's how Murdoch grew. He took over companies, slashed the management, and used those savings to actually pay for the takeover. And more people poured money into him because his corporations were making gangbusters 9 to 11 cent returns when most corporations were only doing 1 to 2 cent returns. Yeah, that's why people didn't put their money in banks. But savings institutions used to make a lot of money because they invested in the you see, commodities used to be ultra wealthy. Buy pork bellies, and sell it, the Christmas rush, and stuff like that. And yeah. But burnout. In China, it's called Ninjan, or in the West, it's actually technically called involution. This is where everyone has to work harder just to stay at zero. Now, if there was upward mobility in life, less people would be lying flat. What is exactly this upward mobility then if there's no upper management levels? Well, you should have at least a skill recognition, right? You should have at least, if you started an entry-level job, right? Now, you can't stay in an entry-level job, but unfortunately, more and more people have no choice. But still, your wage, this is the argument about living wages, but it's gotten out of control. Now, California, believe it or not, is jealous of the average wage in Australia. But you've got to remember, our currency's worth half. So $20 in California is not $20 in Australia. $20 in Australia is $10 in America, or thereabouts, 12 something at the moment. But in a global context, MGTOW is growing globally sideways. The manosphere is still overarching, appealing to the majority of men. Manosphere, I think, MGTOW is what, about 25% of the global male population. Lying Flat is a huge, bigger movement, and though it's predominantly Chinese, you find various versions of it around the world. And it does have different names in different countries. In the US, it's called quiet quitting. This is pretty much you do what your job describes. You're a 9-to-5er. No overtime. You go home to your minimalist lifestyle. And this is, Lying Flat's more like, you have the minimalist lifestyle, you have the manosphere and the minimalist lifestyle, and this where they touch, and you have neats, quiet quitters, Lying Flat, let it rot, MGTOW, which goes into which is under the manosphere completely. Yeah, in Japan, they called them neats, not in education, employment, or training. This is a shared disillusionment with traditional work paths. Well, they're not traditional. They were born out of the 50s with the reorganisation of management and labour in Japan. Unfortunately, because of the social changes in women's mindset, where it used to be only a few girls who'd run away every year to the city to find their dream man. It's almost half the countryside around the world is devoid of women. Or women who finally retire and give up in their 30s. Or grandmothers who come back home to take over to just sit on the family farm until they're near death, and then they sell it. The last survivor. The last one to. These game shows where people sit around, hoping, sit around a car or whatever, hoping that to be the last one. Well, that's what a lot of families are like now in farmland, and have been for quite some time, because no one wants to be a farmer. They all want to be their lawyer. The wage gap, the overpaying of professionals, the dream of stardom in Hollywood. The government regulates our wages, but it doesn't regulate the wages of those who need to be regulated. Why? Because the establishment, it pays itself. Now, just because the movements are similar doesn't mean they're always the same. And there are always variations within each movement. But simplifying your lifestyle, whether it's MGTOW or Lying Flat or digital nomad or a quiet quitter or a neat, is not new. What is the new part is how it's spread, how it's taught, and, more importantly, the numbers. Where it used to be the talented few who would drop out of society because they can't fit in, it is now mainstream, where people with the only qualification being constant heartbreak are joining the alternative lifestyles. Now, there are many women who have simplified their lifestyle, right? But predominantly a good woman gets married, stays married, and after marriage does not get remarried. Now, I do not subscribe to the theory that it takes all types. I believe MGTOW, Lying Flat, and MGTOW, Lying Flat, Let It Right, by Line, they're all counter-revolutionary. For so often, the media have thought they're clever clowns, that their gynocentrism, men would just sit there and go, we just have to be brown birds in brown suits and speak when spoken to, while the women get to be pretty, outrageous, do what they want, and not suffer the consequences, and be pretty much catered to at every opportunity because they're the breeders. That the majority of men can die off, and you only need a handful of men to repopulate, whereas if the majority of women die off, repopulation becomes extremely difficult. But women have caused this. What are we walking away from? Women. What is the corporate culture? What is the purpose of buying a house? To get married and or have children. But when you find out that your plans for a family and a happy early retirement are not the same as her plans. You get married to have a family. She gets married to feather her nest. And when that nest is empty, she will sell it on you so that she can then enjoy the good life. These are lying flat. May be a broader social context, but you'll find the vast majority of men the rat race is not a product of man. It's a product of the establishment. And the establishment is, though, made up of men on the prime face, but you scratch the surface, you find how many women? How many glorious female senators like Senator Elizabeth Warren, 495,000. Yeah, she's the real working class. She knows the struggle, comrades. Hassan Piker, 30 properties. He knows the struggle of the middle class. He went to a private school. How many people and influencers on the left? AOC, private school. No, they don't call it a private school. It was, they don't, no. It's one of those community things where the community poured assets and resources into their local high school. So it's like a private school, but it's not. Allegedly. There's various stories, but she has, millions of dollars of property in a family trust. Right? That's why she was able to be a bartender and hang around the art studios, because Nepo. All of them. All these big influencers are Nepo babies. They didn't start poor. They didn't start for nothing. These movements. That's why there are these movements where people pour their heart and their soul into producing videos or playing music or painting or writing. Yes, it is frustrating for many when the good, no matter how good they are, every year have to spend more just to stay head above water. Because of the boomer mentality, numbers must go up. And the millennials have taken this on. The millennials are set to become the richest generation, richer than the boomers. Now, a lot of boomers didn't have kids. Their wealth is going to default to the state or be broken up amongst foundations like Carnegie and others did to make sure their influence is peddled long beyond the grave. These organisations eventually will fold or collapse because they rely on numbers go up. Lying flat is a realisation that numbers, no matter how much they go up, still only you. And that is why they are breaking away. No matter what effort you put into a relationship, it ends with you being punished. That's why men are walking away. Let it rot. I'll get to tomorrow. Is the next step in that. MGTOW recognises that women are not going to change. Things are only going to get worse. And the thing is, for the last 30 years, it has. That's why lying flat is rising. See, no one asks about the other 20. If MGTOW's 25% of the population, what about the other? Yeah. So, there it is, folks. If women do not correct their behaviour, civilization will collapse. There's no saving it. And they want it. They cheer it. They're not going to like it. There is no utopia. It means nowhere. Most communists, most utopias, most egalitarians, whatever you want to call them, collectivists, they are all collectivists, are part of the establishment. It's a grift. It is a grift where they think by getting you to turn against the corporations, communism, the greatest wealth transfer, those corporations, land still has to be owned, farms still have to be farmed, buildings still have to be built, oil still needs to be pumped. Getting rid of private enterprise does not change anything. In fact, all it does is make everybody equally miserable and equally poor except for the state. And the state owns everything. And you have no reason to make anything because anything you make will be taken from you eventually. So communism is feminism. If you haven't figured it out, you don't have to openly worship Marx to be a communist. But some people are too thick to understand what cultural Marxism is. And I think MGTOW, whether they are intended or not, is a counter-revolutionary movement. Just like Let It Rot and Lying Flat. Whoops, I've got to reset. So thank you all for watching. I hope I've explained Lying Flat and how it fits in with the broader manosphere and why it's a growing movement and why it has a lot in common with MGTOW. So, yeah, thank you all for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. Please support the channel and support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video and bye for now.